Welcome to Krackle Comics Weekly formal issue episode 21, I think. I should know it because I just typed it in for the intro of the video. But hey, we're talking new comics again. I'm Mike alongside.
Daniel.
And I think let's just jump right into the show. No haul, anything. Let's just get right into it. I will say it was a little bit of a battle to read some books this week. We had some good books and we had some not so great books, and well, I think we'll start the top of that with Adventureman #1, Dan.
Yeah,
How
no
was
worries.
Adventureman?
Oh, speaking of hauls, neither one of us got the Silver Surfer omnibus because that thing got sniped out of our hands. So, to anyone out there who did get it, congratulations. Anyway, going into our first book here, we have Adventure Man #1 by Matt Fraction, art by Terry and Rachel Dodson. Um, pretty good team on this book here, and Mike and I were talking off air before the show about this book, and it really fell flat, I think, in both of our opinions. This first issue is 64 pages long, and we don't really get a good sense of what's happening. The issue kind of opens with a Princess Bride tale, with some heroes kind of springing to the rescue and defeating the bad guys, and they're basically called the Adventure Man, and we kind of get a sense of what that is, I guess, but turns out that this whole thing was just a mom and son like finishing a story time, bedtime storybook, and the son is a little bit upset about the fact that that's not the way it should end. The story kind of ended a little bit open ended for the kid in a certain way, and the rest of the issue, the mom is visited by the ghost woman from Adventures Inc. and given a book that is the key to the Adventures Inc. And it shoots out a laser beam apparently. So this is kind of setting up for the mom and son to kind of be the new adventuremen, we think. And in the back of the book, Fraction and Dotson kind of go into more detail about the motivation behind this book and what was the reasoning behind making a story like this. Um, I'll be honest, you know, I read probably 2/3 of this and I just got burnt out on it. It's a pretty long read and just not really too invested from the beginning. For a new series, it really has to deliver kind of with like the characterization and setting up the story and making sure that it's approachable. It looked pretty, but the story just, I don't know. I don't know if I give this a second issue. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, it's disappointing because I like this creative team a lot. I was excited to see, okay, Fraction is on a book of his own creation with the Dodsons, and I like the Dodsons. And it's disappointing when you all the components are there and then it doesn't translate to the page. It's like when a band comes out and it's like, "Ooh, this wasn't a good album." And that's kind of how it feels a little bit. Um, I finished it and I was like, maybe I'll give it a second issue, and I was like, no, I just kind of like it. There's like this feeling of just like I don't care when it was over, which I don't want to say that, but like maybe if when the second issue comes out and when if it's like on a short week or something, there's not a lot coming out. Maybe I'll give the second issue a chance, but in 64 pages, it took forever to get the story going, and I don't have a big sense of what's going on or what's going to happen here. Essentially, I think I liked the beginning and I liked the ending, but that middle chunk where everything's happening so fast, the sense of pacing is so rapid that it was kind of throwing you in a different direction of going. And then also, like, who's our protagonist? Is the kid the protagonist or is the mom the protagonist? I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, the concept of the Adventure Man Incorporated, Adventure Man, obviously, it looks like a Doc Savage kind of take with pulp heroes, and I was down for that. But I mean, the components didn't all just fit together, which is disappointing. But
Th-
you know,
this might be a weird thing to say, but I feel like this could have definitely benefited, but from being split into like three issues. Because I mean, the
yeah,
first story, like you said, is good.
maybe. I mean, you're right. 64 pages. If you would have split it up, I felt like I think a lot of these issue ones from Image are like these giant, oversized books that are trying to grab you, and then I don't understand why you can't maybe split that up to make it more issues, or I'm not entirely sure what the foundation here is, because I would have liked to see more, but also 64 pages wasn't enough to get the message across, which is a weird thing to say, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a more concise, okay, here's our first 22 pages, our next four, so on, it might have been a little bit more structured. That was the word I'm looking for, but
Yeah.
this was not it, sadly. But so I guess that's a thumbs down from both of us. But maybe if it's on a short week, I'll come back to it. But I mean, I'd like to, but we'll see. Going into Marvel books now, you had Black Cat.
Yeah, so again, this is kind of my one of my definite favorites in terms of series that are going out, and it's still going strong in my opinion, at least. I mean, we still get this underlying plot thread kind of going on with the Silver Fox and the I forget what it's called, the Guild, kind of like going after Felicia for some wrongdoing in the past. But yeah, next issue here is Black Cat number 11, written by Jed McKay with art by C.F. Villa. Black Cat has recently stolen a dimensional portal from Rand Tower, going back to the last issue, but needs to forge a key to kind of get in there and use it. So the Silver Fox and her other lackeys realize that they need to break into Stark Unlimited to forge this key that they need. So Felicia disguises herself as Elodie Gross, a journalist who challenges Stark on his history, ultimately while setting up a distraction involving everyone's favorite Iron Man D-list villain, Firepower, who I think made his first appearance back in the original Armor Wars storyline, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so that was kind of cool. A lot different armor design now here in 2020, but yeah. So while Firepower kind of attacks Stark Unlimited and distracts Tony, Felicia breaks into this forge, stunning Bethany Cabe in the process with a narco patch, which is, I guess, it's just like a narcotic patch that she puts on her neck to make her pass out. And Felicia is able to make the key that she needs to open this dimensional portal. And just as Tony figures out where Black Cat is and breaks into the forge, Felicia has actually gone ahead and created her own model of armor to combat Tony and fight against him. Which we get a cool splash. Oh, sorry, I'm spitting. A cool splash page of in the last page here of this issue. Honestly, this is just like a complete merging of like this really good series I'm reading right now, and just one of my favorite characters, Tony Stark. The way she kind of works him is definitely on point with her characterization throughout all of the Spider-Man books and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see how this storyline continues. Definitely missed this book a lot during this whole COVID-19 stuff. But I know Mike didn't read it, but I've been trying to get him to buy the trades. I think the first trade has already been released, so definitely a good time to jump on that, Mike. That's my promo.
I mean, you're cutting promos. I mean, maybe I'll eventually get around to it. And it seems like an endless amount of books right now, and trying to read them all is tough. But into our next one, Daredevil number 20, which I think this was one of the standouts this week. Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto, part 2 of Inferno, and this is part 2 of 2. And Dan, I don't know if you remember, but when the series left off, Hell's Kitchen was completely under attack by the Stromwim's order, and Matt had finally put his mask back on as Daredevil to help the city. And obviously outnumbered, he has to team up with Typhoid Mary briefly as she's trying to stop Rhino from crashing into the church. That allows Matt to take down Stiltman, who's throwing bombs around. Which, the joke being Stiltman is lame, but when Stiltman's throwing bombs around and blowing up city blocks, it's pretty scary. Cole North is all in the middle of this while Dee Dee's trying to check on him. We see Kingpin join the fight, and then Daredevil and Kingpin do that team up thing where Fisk is like, we're not really teaming up, but you're teaming up. And then you got poor Foggy Nelson driving into the middle of the fight here as to give his billy clubs back to him, which that allows him to take down Rhino in a beautifully artistic sequence by Chiquetto. And through the combined work of all of them, they're able to stop the villains. But the ending sees Daredevil turning himself into the authorities for the murder he committed back in issue 1 when he accidentally killed that one thug, which has kind of been the crux of this run. And, this is everything so far in the series coming to a head. And I think this is getting renumbered, by the way, with a new start at some point. But I know the next issue has the cover that was teased of Daredevil's finally back in the red costume properly, but Matt's going to jail, so we'll see. Even though we're doing retreads of things we've seen before with Matt going to jail, that's obviously a take from the Bendis run. It's interesting to see that Zdarsky has done this in a way that's completely new and original and a fresh new take on it, which has kind of been the whole beat of the series. Has been he's been spinning a new web on Daredevil and what can he do with it. And I'm very excited to see what's going to happen as he gets into the next phase of the run here. Because, for a lot of the run, Daredevil was not really Daredevil. This is getting him back to being Daredevil, and now he's going to jail. So, this is great. I think this continues to be the top book at Marvel. This and Immortal Hulk. Dan, do you have thoughts on Daredevil number 20? Because I can't talk about it any better because this is a damn good comic book.
Yeah, this is pretty flawless in my opinion. Very reminiscent, like you said, about going back to the end of Bendis's run where we have that whole fight scene. Wasn't it Bullseye and Daredevil in the streets of Hell's Kitchen?
Yeah, the big Bullseye fights here too. The only bad thing in this is that Bullseye's costume's terrible. But
yeah, like the costume on the top and then like the combat pouches. Yeah, it's like looks half done in my opinion. But yeah, it is very reminiscent of that same type of ending to Bendis's run, but definitely this feels like it has a lot more scale to it, and that's what I kind of like about it. And yeah, the Kingpin Daredevil team up, that was really cool. Kind of seeing like a splash page of Kingpin showing up and being like, "This is my city. I'm gonna take this back," and kind of a little bit of friendly competition going on there between the two of them. But yeah, and this issue read really fast. There's one thing I do want to mention, and I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but Chiquetto, like there was one panel where Foggy's like I think it's like when Bullseye shoots at Foggy and then Daredevil like deflects it with his billy club.
yeah,
Like Foggy looked like almost identical to like how he looked in like Miller's run. Like it was like
really? Oh, I didn't catch that.
Like if you go back, like his facial expression, I don't know if it's just me, but like the way it was drawn, it looked like I don't know, it just looked really like iconic, and I don't know if it's just me looking at that, but I kind of saw him like that looks like Miller's artwork, but I don't know.
I will say the Chiquetto's art here with the action sequences of like there's like intercut parts of like Matt using his powers, showing how he's isolating this person because he's putting his powers together in a new way. That was awesome. So yeah, this continues to be great. And then the opening too with just the black page of like the calls in off the landline, trying to get help to the city, and then you got the Ben Urich stuff going on here too. This is really really good. And I'm wondering what's going to. When you're left wondering, okay, I don't know where you're going to go. That's always usually a good thing. So,
do you think this is?
This and Immortal Hulk top books at Marvel.
Yeah. Do you think this is going to get an omnibus someday?
Yes. What? When it's Daredevil, I think there's a good shot of it.
That's why I asked it, because of course it's going to get one.
Is it going to join? I'm going to get it too, because I got damn near all of them at this point. I think I don't have the Miller Companion just because I have Man Without Fear and Born Again separately. So
yeah.
And then interesting. I mean, getting off on a tangent, and I don't want to get off on. Interesting enough, no Anacenti JRJR omnibus. That, hopefully,
Not
maybe we
yet.
get one of those again. I would get that too. So
Oh,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll, we'll see. But that's wrapping up Daredevil. I'll go into DC's first book here on our rundown, which was their big release this week, which was Dark Knight's Dark Knight's Death Metal #1, which this is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and it's time for the encore, as the cover proclaims. And that, like I said, Snyder and Capullo are back for the next big DC event, which is their sequel to Metal. It's Dark Knight's Death Metal. Get it? Because you had Metal, and now it's Death Metal, because they're both death metal music fans. And I want to say, first off, Greg Capullo with Jonathan Galapion's inks is still an incredible art team. It was an incredible art team back when New 52 when they were doing Batman, and it's still incredible here. This book's outlet is really like, Greg, go absolutely crazy and draw whatever you want, and we'll make it work. Story-wise, this is picking up from the last series, but also it's from the conclusion of Snyder's Justice League run, which with Year of the Villain, which really wasn't a conclusion. It was a lead into this. So, and then he's also pulling things from that Wally West Dr. Manhattan stuff we saw, and even spinning out things from the the Doomsday Clock too. So I do have to commend Snyder for trying to get a cohesive, all right, what is happening in the DCU? Let's streamline this. But the things I don't like are when he starts pulling into all the crises happen for reasons, yada, yada, yada. And, we'll get into that. But the story here is that Wonder Woman and Swamp Thing are being delivered a prisoner on that's being told by these evil Batmen that is essential. And by the way, the world's carved up into these different sections, all this huge desolate wasteland, and Castle Bat, which is ruled by the Batman Who Laughs, being the big stronghold that I assume that all the heroes are going to charge at the end of this. So Diana's being contacted, but I think this is the real Batman. I don't know if this is another clone Batman. I don't really know, as I didn't read all of the first Metal series, so I'm left off of what's truly going on, but trying to pick up the pieces. But this Batman jumps into action. He's been telepathically communicating with Diana through the Justice League communicators that are still on, and he springs into action and makes a play at Batman Who Laughs and reveals he's got a Black Lantern ring, so he rises up all these fallen heroes to lay siege to him, and that this lets Wonder Woman get away. And then she finds out the prisoner is Wally West, who explains what the hell has been going on with Wally West, and he's been kind of going through the entire history of the DC universe. And he's like, all right, it's all connected. These crises are all connected. There's positive matter and antimatter in the universe. And to salvage this, we have to go back to the first crisis and to make what he's calling an anti-crisis. So okay, whatever. I'm kind of down with that. I'm picturing an endgame scenario where we're going to have to redo things to get MacGuffin here, maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but Batman Who Laughs gets word of this, and he's trying to bait Wonder Woman to working with him, but reveals she has a hidden weapon that she uses to kill Batman Who Laughs, I guess, because he explodes. She used parts from the invisible jet to make a weapon that would just explode him instantly. And this plays into the fact that Batman Who Laughs thought, oh, you can't outplan me, but this new Batman is like, no, I'm better than you. So I guess this is all part of a plan that was put together, and they're springing it now. And the book is bookended with these segments with Sergeant Rock calling people to battle, and then it ends with Batman picking him up, and it's revealed that he's only half a body. So it was it was crazy, and I liked it. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I mean, if I liked it, I think that's nothing but a good thing. And you know what? I'm going to stick on the ride for Dark Knight's Death Metal, because if nothing else, the art is absolutely bonkers crazy and beautifully breathtaking and awesome to look at from that Greg Capullo and Jonathan Glapion team. But going into X-Men corner now. It's Excalibur #10. This is Teenie Howard and Marcus Toe. Jamie Braddock has launched attacks from Otherworld onto London, making it look like Krakoa was attacking. And this makes it so London has declared war on Krakoa, and they're hunting down mutants, including Excalibur. So the book begins with everything kind of in turmoil, and the team only able to escape with the help of Kitty Pryde and Rachel Gray, who's using her powers to make a ship fly, which is pretty sweet. My thing though, Kitty Pryde's dead in Marauders, and they can't bring her back. So I don't know if we're already out of sequence with how these X-Men books are supposed to line up. I'm yes, that's what's happening now. But they take the fight to Jamie in Otherworld, but Betsy gets killed, and this causes a split, I guess, in the dimensions as Jamie's created this other versions of Betsy Braddock, and the rest of the team each, and I guess a different segment, get the amulet to let them become Captain Britain as well. So this splits what's real and what's going on beyond recognition. If Vince was here, I think he probably would have more insight to what's going on in Excalibur, but I enjoyed it. Marcus Toe's art's still good. I think Marcus Toe was the original artist on this because I know we have like the two that switch off. But I'm down for this kind of weird Jamie Braddock being the villain because we saw this being planned with him in Apocalypse. So I'm down with that. Also, everyone kind of gets their own little cool look in their Captain Britain costumes, which is pretty sweet to see. But in our next X-Men book, which finishes out our small X-Men corner this week, it's New Mutants number 10. This is Ed Brisson and Flaviano. First out, we're going to say Flaviano's art, always great to look at. And this is the, like I said, second book in our X-Men corner. And they're dealing with the Russian teenager in the country of Carnelia whose mutant powers have manifested, and she's growing an orb of nightmares like around her that's kind of taking over the town she lives in. And the first team of New Mutants that we saw go in there for help, they got trapped, and that was kind of like mostly the original members plus like Chamber and I can't remember the other one, but the one that the Hickman team, I'm just going to say the Hickman team and the Brisson team. So the Brisson team is going out to plan to get them out and save them, and the plan is to send Armor in with a bunch of other people. I think Wildside's there too, and they make the contact to save the girl. And with the very 80s horror movie trope of tying a rope around Armor's waist, and Karma will tug it if they get into a problem. They even comment on how ridiculous the strategy is. It even say it's an 80s horror movie strategy. And while this is happening, the Prime Minister of Carnelia is going off on how this is all a ploy by mutants to prove they're needed, as Carnelia still doesn't like mutants. And the cliffhanger sees Armor getting visions of her dead parents, and then losing her grip on reality and her powers as she's weakening. And Karma realizes that, oh shit, the rope's torn apart. So I like this. I think Ed Brisson has a great handle and banter with these characters that make it fun. I think of an outspoken, I like the Ed Brisson issues more than the Jonathan Hickman issues, as that's the characters from Brisson uses are the ones I'm more familiar with and have more of a liking to than some of the original New Mutants. But my only question is, I don't know why Magic and Glob aren't there helping. They're back on Krakoa making one of Glob's soup recipes. So that was a fun little sequence here. But I'm kind of down for this Nightmare Orb story that's going on. But that's it for X-Men Corner as these books trug along. As I guess we're building to X of Swords, which is going to be that first huge crossover. I think it's like 21, 22 parts. So I'm sure Vince and I will go crazy when we get to that. But throwing it back to Dan here, we got another book here, and it was one of our favorite indie books, and we'll see if it is still our favorite, with Family Tree number 6.
Yes, indeed. So we were talking pre-show. The first trade for this book is actually out, so definitely go pick that up. Collects the first 4 issues of this series, and yeah, definitely really like it. Yeah, so our next issue here is Family Tree number 6, written by Jeff Lemire, with art by Phil Hester. So the issue opens to Darcy walking into a bar to see his dad. He sits down and he tells him that he's left his wife due to this condition he has. And the dad's like, what condition are you talking about? So Darcy shows him that he's turning into this like tree monster type of thing. He like lifts up his shirt in like an alley, and you can see like the tree kind of like forming his like stomach and like side, his rib cage and stuff. So that's a little weird. And he tells his dad, that the dad, like, you can't die yet because you need to watch over my family, watch over Meg, which is Darcy's daughter. And we then find out that Darcy's dad has actually been passed out this whole time and wakes up to see a woman that has like strapped him down in like this abandoned apartment or something. and is interrogating him to find out where his daughter is, um, and where she's headed, because she is actually Meg is becoming one of these monsters as well, and this woman is trying to hunt them down and destroy them. And we get into a discussion about whether or not these creatures are should be allowed to grow and reproduce and you know populate the earth, or if they should be destroyed by humans. So the woman actually tells Darcy's dad that her father actually turned into one of these monsters and she was forced to kill him. So we obviously know what kind of side she's on, pretty tragically, however. And basically, Darcy's dad ends up escaping and tries to start tracking Meg down to save the family and save her first and foremost. And the woman kind of lets him escape as she sees where the getaway car goes, and she knows where to kind of track down um, the dad to hopefully get to Meg and find out where that creature is hiding. So yeah, really interesting book here. Obviously, I think I missed an issue early on, so I'm kind of missing some of the plot gap here. But what's great about this storyline is, you know, 6 issues in, even after this long break, kind of can pick up and understand what's going on. But I liked it. Phil Hester art. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, Eric Gapster. How you say that name? Also credited with art. But yeah, that's really all I got for that. Mike, what did you think?
Well, I just going into the art team, it's Phil Hester and Eric Gapster here, who obviously you're more attuned to seeing Phil Hester and Andy Parks, which would have been the team that was for Green Arrow. So there's subtle differences to the art. And I think the inks. I'm assuming Gapster doing the ink or finishes. It didn't exactly say in the credits. I wish I could. I'll have to do more digging on that, but it definitely makes it look more grimy and kind of more horror-esque with the different line, like scattered line work, which completely works for the book. My thing is, what we finished the first 4 issues of this wrapped up with the girl dying. I'm sorry, the daughter dying, and then we were flung into the future, focusing on like the brother. And I thought, oh, okay, that's I guess what we're going to get to in issue 5, and now issue 6, where we get a flashback to 1995 when before the father originally died, and now we're in the future again with the grandfather still alive. So it was kind of, and with such a long hiatus, it was like, oh, I got to wrap my head around it. I would have assumed that grandfather was dead by that point. So interesting to see how this is all going to kind of come together. Which because I thought the brother was going to be our protagonist after the first 4 issues. So I mean, other than that, I mean, this still continues to be intriguing to me, and it's Jeff Lemire. He's going into his pile of tricks where he's doing the family dynamics, family relationship stuff, but I still like this team because it's Jeff Lemire and Phil Hester, which are two of my favorites. So yeah, I'm going to keep reading this, and I thought this was good, but I am getting the sense of, all right, what's going on here, and I'd like a little bit more cohesion to what's happening, and that might be a thing of this might read better in trade than it is issue to issue, and there was like a month and a half, 2 months between issues of us reading it, so I'm not going to completely put that on the book. Probably put that more on me in the hiatus of the pandemic than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, I think the gap in time from when we last read this, I think, is what's contributing to a little bit of the confusion, but I still really enjoy it. So,
Did you enjoy our next book, Joker 80th Anniversary Super Special?
sure. I mean,
I'll keep the double box on this because when we do these, it's usually just a conversation of what did we like, and because there's like nine, it's 100 pages, and there's like 6 to 9 stories in here. I think I can't remember how many there were, but which ones were memorable to you that because you got tasked. This is the first time you gotta run the super special.
yeah, I'm so fortunate to be able to run this discussion. Um, yeah, I mean, I I honestly thought the Snyder one was probably the best.
I
Um,
agree.
O'Neill's was kind of funny. Also rest in peace, Denny
Yeah,
O'Neill.
yeah.
Um,
Dennis O'Neil passed away recently, and that was a blow to the comics community as that happened right around this time. And it was I guess this is his. I think he has a story upcoming in the Detective Comics 1027, so that might be his final published comic work when that happens. But or maybe this was it. I can't remember if he has a story or not. But I liked it. I mean, I liked the art too with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I thought it was a little odd, but it was very kind of that silver Bronze Agey, much more Bronze Agey of like this wacky Joker than like the scary Joker that we saw in Scott Snyder's one with the definitely echoing his stuff with Death of the Family, where he had the Joker under the bed, getting the guy because that was a thing from Death of the Family. He was under Commissioner Gordon's bed, and with the jock art and Scott Snyder's story was very creepy, and that echoed the Black Mirror, which was Snyder's first Batman work with his stuff on Detective Comics. So kicking that off, I thought that was good. I'm not getting into rankings real quick for this. I guess this is on par with Catwoman. I thought the standout stories were the Scott Snyder. I liked the Dennis O'Neil one. I thought the Tomasi one was okay.
Yeah.
The James Tynan's and Mikhail Janin's story for the origin of Punchline, I did not like very much. So any interest that I had in that character, and it wasn't much, I didn't really care for. But Janin's art was good, and it usually is. So,
Well, you're telling me you didn't get her first appearance?
No, I didn't. The speculator boom on this character is absolutely crazy. Where DC's already talking about giving her for her first miniseries. So we'll talk again in a year and a half, 2 years from now. Is Punchline still going to be a big character? I say no, and I might be wrong, but I feel like that's the thing with all these new Batman villains. You try to build them up, and once Batman beats them, what's going to happen? It's almost like a pro wrestling effect when you have your giant baby face who keeps running roughshod. You're going to run out of villains, and if you try to build someone else up, it's very weird how you're going to have to stagger villains. I thought Vince and I were talking, I think last week after the show, we said, what was the last memorable standing Batman villain? We might go with, it might be Red Hood, and he's not even a true villain anymore. And then there was Hush right before that, and then I think Professor Pig has been standing, but he's not on the level of like a Hush or a Red Hood. He's more of like a C list, maybe B list, depending on how he's used. And I've equated that. I like to say that in terms of comparison, I think Professor Pig's like the new Victor Zsasz, maybe, if you want to look at it like that. But this special was okay. It's 80 years of the Joker. We've had, I think next week is 80 years for Green Lantern. And I'm more excited for that one because the different characters and different creators of different eras. So on terms of here, it's hard to make Joker a protagonist in your stories, which I liked Scott Snyder's because, okay, it's a straight up horror story where the Joker doesn't really appear until the end. It was a story about a Gotham City police officer who got Joker gassed. His face is turned into this horrible, mangled smile as this therapist that's being funded by Bruce Wayne is trying to help these guys, and it doesn't work out well. The Dove Corpse thing with the O'Neill story was fun and wacky. The Paul Dini story with Riley Rossimo was very kind of animated series influenced, especially from what I saw in Rossimo's art. The story that Greg Miller had, it was other people too. I can't remember the artist, but I thought it was meh, like very mad. Like I think if this is the Greg Miller I thought it was, it'd be that one from the formerly IGN and Kind of Funny. At least that's who I think it is. I could be totally wrong. I mean, Greg Miller's a pretty normal name that there could be multiple people that have it. But I liked the ending where Batman's dead and the Joker has no purpose. So he goes to work at the DMV. I thought that was a good ending, but I saw a lot of recycled movie stuff in here. I don't know if you got like that. Like I saw lines of like, why so serious? Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight. There is a lot of movie lines and references in here that I was like, okay, stop being cutesy. I know what you're doing, and it's not working. So that was a lot here more than anywhere else. There was a kind of a little bit with that with Catwoman, but it was mostly just like, oh, why is Catwoman wearing her Batman Returns costume here? But yeah, I thought there was a lot of weird, like forced movie stuff here, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge things. But I don't know. 80 years of the Joker, and this coming out along the same side of Joker War happening. There's so much Joker right now. Can he go away?
No, he'll never go away.
Batman has other villains, guys.
They're gonna burn this guy out, and he won't even actually make an appearance in the Batman book. He'll get burnt out just by being mentioned all through all these books.
I don't know. I just seem to even since going back from Snyder. Snyder used him like 3 times in his run. Tom King didn't use him that much, which I was a welcome breath of fresh air. So I don't know, man. There's way too much joke. Like, and Tynan's first story is big Joker story. So
When you
this
say
comes to a point where I'm just like, I'm Jokered out.
when you say movie references, did you feel any references to the 2019 film, or just like the Heath Ledger stuff?
Well, I mean, the one with Azzarello was it was the same creative team from the Joker graphic novel. That obviously the look for that was kind of the Heath Ledger look, but according to Azzarello, and I think he said that the artist rendition of it was done before the movie came out, and they took it. But
Oh
I
wow.
mean, I don't know. There wasn't a lot of Heath Ledger stuff other than that story, but it's like, yeah, it's 80 years of the Joker. Some people, I mean, a lot of people liked this, but I didn't really care for it. It was like fine. The stories that I liked, and I always questioned how we end up spending so much time talking about these super specials. Anything else you have to say on Joker?
Not really. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Green Lantern one next week, so we'll kind of see how that one goes.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to see what Jeff Johns does on that, and seeing how they structure it. I think if they, I, I don't know. The Catwoman one was my favorite one with the way they organized it, where it kind of went through every era. So I
Yeah.
think that's something they need to do. But I mean, the different editorial offices are going to organize these books the way they want to organize them. So
Yep.
moving on.
All right. So I don't believe I read the first issue of this. So I'm jumping into the second issue here. We get Stealth number 2, written by Mike Costa with art by Nate Bellegarde. So the issue opens to a man strapped to a table saying all the bad things he's done, basically like confessing his sins. When this other guy touches his head with like this really like gross looking hand, like kind of like that's kind of like what's making this guy say all the things he's saying. We then pan to a man in a hospital who was beaten with an aluminum bat and leaves. He's a younger dude, and he comes out here only to find out that his dad is actually missing in the waiting room, which he, I guess, was in while he was being treated for his injury. Turns out that this young man's dad is actually Stealth, who comes home after a long night of crime fighting, much to his son's dismay, as he sits on his bed and kind of waits for his dad to get home, showing him kind of, his face and how he got beat up. And I guess that pretty much we find out the kid's name is Tony, and Tony's dad kind of tells him the story of and the origin of Stealth's armor. So back in '79 in Detroit, Tony's dad was a firefighter who was putting out a fire in an abandoned building where he found the armor in like this underground like well, and I guess he kind of got like sucked through the well and spit out somewhere else, and they thought he was dead because he basically was like in like a sewer thing flowing throughout the whole city. He comes home from the hospital and he finds out that the armor was in his briefcase, which connects to him through a plug in the back of his body, which I think is a little weird. Kind of like reminiscent of like the organic webbing seen in the first Spider-Man movie. Like it's a little like weird that it just comes out of his body. But anyway, but yeah, then Tony's dad then worked with his brother, who actually worked with the police. So that's kind of how like he got his gig being Stealth. His brother kind of gave him like the inside scoop on like all of these like crime scenes and everything going on, and he helped them out on many of these like missions. Kind of assisting with the police, and we find out that like during this whole discussion with his son about this, we find Stealth kind of being monitored by these other dudes who are basically the leader of this guy of this like these villains that look like they're creeping on him. Uh, the leader kind of looks like Two Face, and I don't know who he is. I don't know what his motivations are. Um, yeah, it's pretty interesting to jump into the second issue of this. I don't know.
Well, I thought you were going to go back and read the first one, where you would have found out that Stealth is an older superhero who's going through Alzheimer's, so he's got dementia.
Oh,
And at the end of the first issue ended up with him beating up his son. So that's kind of picking up off of that, and then we find out proper his origin around here. But I don't know. I still like this. I enjoy Mike Costa. I enjoy Mike Bellegarde's art.
yeah,
But yeah, I guess we have our villains now
yeah. I
with
mean,
Man.
pretty much.
I mean, I like villains with half their face is scarred. That's always it's a fun gimmick. But takeaways from this: you like it, keeping with it, enjoying it. I wanted you to read it because it's kind of Iron Man esque.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a third issue. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward enough for me to understand, and um, yeah, I kind of like the origin story. It's kind of like feels like it's kind of like thrown back to like the 70s. Like it sounds like a kind of like a 70s esque type of like origin story with like an armor and like being sucked into like a well. Like it's just kind of like classic comic type of origin, which I think is interesting. So
And then obviously the wondering, is the sun going to become the next Stealth or not? We'll see where that goes. But
yeah,
the concept of an older superhero who's getting Alzheimer's was kind of what drew me in, and see how they do that. So there wasn't a lot of dealing with that this issue, but I'm interested. I'm intrigued to see how they're going to have it play out.
is this
And
DC?
no, this is I think this is Dark Horse or Boom. This might be Boom. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I think it is Boom. Interesting.
But going to DC, Strange Adventures #2. Tom King, Mitch Gerrits, and Doc Shaner, the super team, if you will. And issue 2 of the Prestige format series focuses in on Michael Holt, who, aka Mr. Terrific, who has been asked by Batman to investigate the current allegations against Adam Strange that we saw back in issue 1. But this is a deep dive following on Mr. Terrific, so we follow him all through his daily routine with his T spheres that are constantly quizzing him, as he's the third smartest man in the world. So it's how he keeps himself in tune. And Michael thinks that Bruce has asked him to look into this case due to what happened to his wife and child. And Adam Strange's daughter is dead, and his book is dedicated to her, but he figures out that Strange's daughter is in fact not dead, but won't push on Batman until he presents his case to the Justice League. And Holt suspects that his daughter isn't the only lie that we see told here from Adam Strange. And his we are keyed into that. Only thing that Holt doesn't know is that of which he doesn't want to, which is the gender of his unborn child. And it also made implying that his wife is dead too. At least I think she is as well. And the Adam Strange segments drawn by Doc Shaner are always they're so breathtaking, beautiful. I mean, Garrett's art here is great. They complement each other so well with the current sequences and past sequences. The Adam Strange segments show that the events of when he and his wife got trapped in this desert, and the lengths that Adam was going to in order to save her, which he kind of has this like showdown with these other aliens, and he's like really threatening them with his gun, and implied maybe he just kills them. But we get another Alex Toth quote here. I can't remember if Alex Toth was the first quote in this or not, but the quote is, "Isn't it a little demanding to insist that an artist remain like that for 30 years? Being true to your own principles, no." And that's from the Comics Journal number 98. I'm not entirely sure yet how these quotes are going to be used in the story, and I'm getting a hint to the stories that Michael Holt was looking up around Adam Strange, and the stories that he was getting tested upon by his T spheres are all going to connect eventually. But the ending of issue is mirroring the end of issue 1, where Mr. Terrific meets Adam Strange. So, I mean, I like this. I like this creative team. It's issue 2 of 12, and it kind of comparing it to Mr. Miracle. We didn't get a full sense of what was going on until maybe about midway through. That's how these prestige miniseries, I guess, maxi series from Tom King kind of go. But it's still very good, and the questions are being dug up here. But I like that we took issue 2 to really delve into it. Who is Michael Holt? Who is Mr. Terrific? And we're not entirely known yet. But I will say, I've seen complaints on both sides here. I like the idea of the T spheres constantly questioning him, but maybe there's a better way to show that he's the third smartest man in the world by knowing just trivia that Tom King can Google and throw in there. It's kind of like this double-edged thing where maybe you'll complain about anything regardless, but I thought it was a cool idea, but maybe there's more to explore how he's the third smartest man in the world than just interesting facts that you can enter into Google and spit out into your script. Dan, thoughts on Strange Adventures number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this much more than the first issue. This one really kind of hooked me in a lot more of this series, and probably will be the reason why I continue reading this series. I don't really have a lot of background with any of these characters per se, but
Well, keep
this
in
started.
mind this being DC Black Label, it's really this creative team doing their own spin on it.
Okay, yeah.
So
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, yeah, like you said. I mean, I was thinking the same exact thing because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there's the only way that he could be pulling these quotes and all this stuff is just through a Google search. I mean, it is a little lazy, but at the same time, I mean, it kind of made it interesting read. I think like of one of those of all those questions, I think I knew like the answer to like one of them, and that was like, what are the 3 different parts of the year?
yeah,
But yeah,
and definitely I see what he's doing. Like, one of the stories that the T Spheres tells him is going to definitely connect to one of the things that Adam Strange has done back on Ran. So
yeah,
I it's like I said, it's part 2, and it's like, okay, we have 2 puzzle pieces, but we also have 10 more, and then that's kind of how Mr. Miracle was. I enjoy the way he writes, with the way this goes, but I mean, we'll see what happens when we get into the midway point. Usually, there's the big aha moment. That's kind of how Mr. Miracle was, and some people liked Mr. Miracle all the way through. Some people got midway through and they went, I don't really like it. I liked it all the way through, but we'll see what's going to happen. I will say though, the art still continues to be breathtaking, and I do like the fact of Michael Holt, Mr. Terrific, and Adam Strange both sharing the loss of a child, kind of connecting cases together here and seeing how Batman brings them together in that way. And I'm also kind of surprised that we're still seeing Batman kind of like regularly in this series. I thought the first time we saw him on the rooftop in issue 1 would have been in, but no, Mr. Terrific's like constantly like calling in to chat with Batman.
I mean, you gotta sell books somehow.
I mean, yeah, that's that. I mean, that's another take on DC. We can't stop using the Joker, and we can't stop shoving Batman into things where maybe he doesn't need to be. But
Exactly.
I mean, perfect segue. A book where Batman isn't in is Question the Deaths of Vic Sage number 3, which is by Jeff Lemire and Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. And Vic Sage has woken up in his office, and now he's a private detective in the late 1930s. This is there's one of the newspapers headlines shows Hitler storming in through Poland. So we're on the heels of World War II beginning. And he's trying to piece together what's been happening to him. And I think in the last issue, he was in the Old West. And obviously, each issue ends with him dying and then trying to pick up the pieces, as this is kind of huge mystery going on. And he's asked by a woman by the name of Maggie to investigate her brother Jacob's disappearance. And she says it may have to do with his involvement in trying to bring a labor union into the garment factories that they're both working at. And this sets Vic down the path of trying to find him, but then he's stopped and beaten in an alley and be like, hey, don't go further investigating this. This is very crime noir, which I think so far, by the way, as far as art goes, this is Cowan and Sienkiewicz's best work on the series so far. which in a book that has been endlessly breathtaking on the art as it goes. And I know they got that very big, broad canvas to work with the size of these Black Label books being bigger, with a huge landscape to work with, and I think it really suits them very well. But Vic sees Richard Dragon when he's in the alley in the distance, which makes him kind of transform it. Like, remember that you're the question, and he transforms in the question. He fends off the offenders, and then he goes to Tot to discuss what's happened. And then he's tipped that Maggie's at the protest for the Union, and the running trope here is Vic's still one step behind as he arrives when there's already riots breaking out, and he loses track of Maggie's car. So he's got to try to tail the police car that's taken her. And at this point, Vic's head's going crazy, where he's seeing visions of all of his past selves that we've seen so far in the series, and he gets knocked out and kind of wakes up, and he believes Maggie was taken, which is down to like this crypt-like hole basement thing where he finds her, and it turns out he's been duped into thinking it's her, but it's really this priest demon thing that he's been fighting the whole thing and the whole series, and he's killed again. And then Vic wakes up next to Richard Dragon, seeing that everything has been connected and that he's going to have to kill the evil that's been haunting him, which is a kind of a thing explored in the original series. Is, will Vic Sage go to the lengths of killing? Yes, we've seen him do that before. So seeing Vic Sage, the question, fighting what might be the true evil incarnate is kind of a very interesting idea explored. It would be, I mean, I like this series as a question fan from the original O'Neill, Callan, Sienkiewicz run. This is very much Lemire taking the inspiration from that and doing his own thing with it. And, like I said, the big canvas that the art team gets to play around with here is just breathtaking. This is some of the best work I've ever seen from Dennis Callan, who, his work on the 80s series was effortlessly brilliant and great then back there. And it seems like he hasn't missed a beat, almost, I think 30 going on maybe 40 years ago that series was coming out. So the fact that we're here now in 2020 and Dennis Callan's still drawing the question as consistently as ever that in that long period of time is really a cool thing to see. But that's the show for this week. Daniel, what is the pick of the week? I will say, I think Question has, I can't remember if it's 5 issues or 4 issues. The next issue might be the last issue, but I can't remember. But obviously still very much enjoying it. But like I said, pick of the week. I'm giving it to Daredevil number 20. Go back, listen to us talk about it. I think we kind of give it away that was going to be our pick of the week. But any thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, mine is also the Daredevil number 20. Black Cat was definitely a close second for me. I really enjoyed both of those series. Chip Zdarsky is just continuing to solidify this run as another great addition to the Daredevil series, and I don't know, just really enjoying it. It's awesome to see kind of an issue like that with all the payoff, from all the other issues leading up to it, and kind of seeing it all come to a head. It's very rewarding as a reader, to go through this whole book and kind of see the climax of this storyline, kind of everything that built up before it. So, yeah.
No, I agree. I think other books that were in my contention were Strange Adventures and Question. So I think I had more good books this week than bad. It's nice to see that things are getting to a more normal release schedule. I think with next week, I think we'll be on new books again proper. So as we continue to push to a more normalized schedule. But I just do have to say it was a little bit of a slog to sit down and read books this week. I think was like it felt like a mountain, but we were both able to get through it. So
definitely.
And I think with that, Daredevil number 20. Can't wait to see what happens next. And I think if it's still coming out, I think Green Lantern 80th anniversary is next week. So that's something to look forward to. But other than that, that's the show for this week. So subscribe down below. Audio version will be out along with the one from JLA Earth 2. I took a impromptu vacation, so I'll get both of those out this weekend. So you'll get a double audio dose. So
yeah, get on that mic.
Yeah, did you if you listen to the JLA Earth 2 discussion, it was like 20 minutes if you cut out my whole segment. So it's not going to be that long to edit. So that's the show for this week, though. Anything else, Dan? Anything to sign off on? You want to plug your channel? Anything?
Yeah, go subscribe to Mandac, all one word, Mandac. I do comic call videos. Probably will be doing one this Sunday, so
Say
check it.
you're trying to get to that illustrious number 50, right?
Exactly, halfway to 100. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll see.
So we'll see there if Dan can hit that 50 number, and then obviously Krackle Comics, Twitter, Instagram, same thing there. And it's nothing else has changed on that front. But that's the show for this week. Bye.